Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. Folks, no matter what kind of business you have, you need to get word out there that you are open for business. And the digital world can be complicated, and sometimes you just don't want to post as much as you think you want to because it's a hassle. So that's why you need professionals like Drago and his team at Oak City Tech. Go to oakcitytech.com, tell them what you're looking for, and they'll be able to help you with that. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Each week on Triangle BNI, we bring you a local small business success story. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle is Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, and all the surrounding communities. And our job in all the 31 chapters that meet every week is to help each other grow their business. In our local small business success story this week is Mike Mullins with Edward Jones. Mike is in the Smithfield Strategy Launch Group. They've got 10 people. They're moving fast and furious. So if you're a small business owner in Smithfield and want to meet some other small business owners, they can help you grow their business and you can help them grow yours. They can help you grow yours. They meet every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. at the Builders Industry Association building. Mike, do I have that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's
And so, Mike, glad to have you on the show. How are you today?
Well, thanks for having me, Mike. I'm doing great. Happy Monday.
Back at you. For those of you with bad backs, I go to a chiropractor pretty regularly, and she has one of those massage guns that she'll just run up and down your back on the muscles. And Becky and I bought one last week, and let me tell you, people, that's the best thing I bought in 15 years. 'Cause I run that on the muscles on my back, and man, I haven't felt this pain-free in a while. So it took a while to kick in, but so I recommend a massage gun. Just go to Google and start typing in. That's what we call it, a massage gun. But man, oh man. So
You
yep,
need one of those tables, though. The roller tables, I think, would be ideal for me. I think I can handle one of those
yeah.
in the house.
I never wanted to be hung upside down or doing any of those traction things. I think that was old school, and that just looked like it hurt.
No,
Uh,
no, it's you see those vampire movies and stuff.
yeah,
That's what you feel like when you
yeah.
get that stuff going.
So, yeah, so that's Mike's going to give you other tips. That's my tip of the day, folks. That massage gun, I think it's like 49 bucks. There's 100 different kinds you could buy on Amazon or Google, but man, oh man, talk about an investment. Wow. All right, so Mike is with Edward Jones. Couple things that are always difficult for people to talk about are money and health because they're either uncomfortable about health or they don't have any money to talk about when in fact they could start their own plan. So Mike, we laugh about it, but just send me 40 bucks a month. You're 24 years old, just start sending me 40 bucks a month. You have data that shows that will add up.
Well, it's definitely one of those things. It's tough because people usually think, well, I don't have enough to start saving, or it's going to cost too much to talk to folks and actually get some I guess ask their questions. So it's one of those things is picking up the phone and actually calling somebody is not that scary. And again, you should do it as soon as you can.
And the whole thing is just start. What does they say? It takes 21 days to build a habit. But if you just start a program like that, then you'll at least be aware of it every month. And then as you grow and your bank account grows or your new job grows, your revenue, you can start giving a little bit more and just, man, sometimes you just want to shake people just trying to get them started, don't
Sure, and that's kind of where I always start. It's like you've got to start somewhere. So that budget is kind of my big thing is understanding where that money is going. What you're bringing in, how much is going out, and then how where can I start trimming stuff? What's some of the fluff that's out there that maybe I don't see? There's so many things out there now that are on auto pay. So the Netflix and the Amazon Music and all those little things that are going out the door, the Apple Pays and different stuff like that is keeping up with all that stuff from the get go is a big deal. And I think a lot of people maybe just don't understand that. Well, I don't know where to start. But again, starting at that budget point is understanding where that money is and what's coming in, what's going out at this point.
you? That's a good point. I had not looked at it that way, but you're right. if you know it's an automatic draft on the 3rd of every month, you're gonna forget all about it.
Oh yeah. So and that's kind of where, when you're putting stuff away to start, the kind of set it and forget it is easy, because again, it's the same type of deal. You've got it set up. You're not having to, write a check or do stuff like that at that point. It makes it easier. And again, early on, getting it set up, get that habit going. And again, as you get, raises and things like that, make sure that you're looking at this stuff, each year, and doing what you can. It definitely adds up.
Oh, we have fun banging on Starbucks every now and then about what our friends pay for a macchiato grande, whatever it is, right? I mean, I'm a half calf guy with some creamer. That's all I'm interested in. And if people go to Starbucks every day, if they just went 4 days a week, and those 4 times they didn't go, put that money in a jar and then write somebody a check and just start there, I think they'd be amazed, and they probably wouldn't die if they had Starbucks only 4 days a week.
Well, I think we would all be amazed at some of the things that we are, just spending money on. And again, it's a habit. Whether it's a good habit, bad habit, indifferent. It's one of those things that, there's definitely an opportunity for that. And again, we've just got to, realize it at that point. Luckily, my dad helped me out quite a few years ago. He was a coffee drinker, big coffee drinker, still is. He told me it would stunt my growth, so that worked out really well for my brothers and I. So I've had, I think, one sip of coffee my entire life.
Yeah.
So that's not one of my one of my bad habits at this point.
And I never drank coffee till I got married, and even then it was 15, 20 years into that. My wife and her family are big coffee drinkers, and then one day, like, "Okay, I'll try it." And I found the right creamer. It's like, "Ah, you know what? I'll drink it." But now I'm leaning more towards iced coffee, but it's literally coffee in the pot, that the pot's been turned off for about 4 hours. I'll put, like, 2 ice cubes in there and some creamer, and that's my iced coffee. It really doesn't cost me anything.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Yeah, no, I'll leave that for everybody else.
Yeah.
I'm good.
One of the, cool things you talk about, and I love how you phrase it, I never thought of it that way, but one of the things BNI's taught me is to shop local. There are a number of wonderful national companies, which you are part of, that you can
Mhm.
call an 800 number and pretty much get all the answers you want, but the problem is you may talk to a different person each time, and you should have cell phone number to your banker, your financial advisor, in my case, my chiropractor, and probably a couple other people.
Right.
But you told the first time we met, the first time I heard you talk, you said, with regard to your clients, you tell them, "I want to be invited to your funeral."
Right.
And when
Right.
you think about it, it's like, "Ooh, yuck." But then when you realize, oh my God, that's a relationship.
Absolutely. I mean, this, dealing with people's finances and goals for whether it be retirement, whether it be for their kids, or talking about, whatever goal that they may have, and helping them get to that point. We're meeting, at least one time a year, if not more. But again, trying to, walk through those, and they're going to come up with different things that are going to happen in their lives, and having somebody to bounce ideas off of, and being there when maybe things get a little bit rough, and having that additional ear where, hey, they look at this stuff all day. Let's call Mike, and see what's going on. So those relationships, it gets deep over the years, and again, you get into some really deep conversations, and understanding, kind of goals and wishes for themselves and their kids, and parents and grandparents, and those type of things. So
I always like to hang out with people that want to learn things and grow. And there's certain areas in our lives, depending on what you do, how you were raised, and how you're wired, we don't know much about it. And sometimes we get ourselves in the most trouble when we don't know something we don't know. And that's when you should pick up the phone and call somebody like you and just ask, like, all right, let's talk, because it can be easy. We don't need, we're probably, most of us probably aren't going to be Warren Buffett, Saw he dropped 16.5 billion on what, Chase, JP, something, one of those.
It
We don't
changes from day to day.
It does, don't have that much, but just to get started, and it can be very simple, and I just wish people would reach out in any industry that they need help with, but I know you love those phone calls when people is like, "Hey, Mike, I got some questions for you."
Sure. This business is, there's a lot of learning that goes into it. And again, the educational portion of this business, hopefully, I try to explain it to the point where we're on the same level. Again, you don't want to use the 16,000 acronyms that are out there that only I may know, but or the folks on this side of the fence may know, but getting it to a point where, hey, this is what we're doing, and here's what we're doing and why we're doing it. And again, having that ability to have those conversations where people take that, and either they take it home and they think about it, and they want to come back and they ask their questions or ask questions right on the spot. Um, those are ideal folks, because again, we want to move this needle together, because usually, that's what they always say is people, if they don't understand, they're going to say no. So one of the big things that we need to do is create an understanding, and again, a relationship that, again, what I'm going to give to you is in your best interest, and it's for your betterment of your cause and your goals.
In the business coaching world, sometimes I'll talk with somebody. It's like, Mike, it's a good idea. I really want to work with you, but the phone's really not ringing right now. So let me get some business going and then I'll call you. And I want to tell them you just missed the point. And I'm sure you get people that say, I don't have when I get some more money to invest, I'll call you. And they missed the point, didn't they?
Sure. It's what they always say. Anything, there's no time like the present. Getting those things going. Taking that first step. Uh, Whether you have the money now or later, is understanding. Well, what does that look like? What do I need to do to get to that point? And what are the things, some of the pitfalls that I need to kind of avoid, and things that I'm doing right now that haven't allowed me to get to that point yet.
Mhm. And one of the things, we'll get into kids in a minute. We both have some. And didn't we teach them early on, save your pennies? Right? Put them in a jar, they'll add up. And yet as adults, we just throw that logic right out the window, don't we?
Well, that's funny. We'll go to kids, and my son got his first lawn mowing job a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
and I told him, I was like, "You're giving me half
Mhm.
of your money," and that's like, I'm putting it in the safe, and it's like, you can pretend like it doesn't even exist,
Yeah.
because again, if he sees a concession stand, it's gone.
And at his size too, right?
Yeah, and he's got a hollow leg, so
Yeah.
all those things are going down, and he never sees it anyways.
And you can remind him, because you're doing this for him at your funeral, he better speak kindly of you.
Right, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Hopefully he knows where the money is whenever
Yeah. He'll
whenever
he'll
that happens.
he'll thank you one day. He'll brag on you at least about that, so you know you got that going for you. One of the things I do before shows is do some intel on the guest, just because I need talking points and educational talking points I like. You posted something on your Mike Mullins, Edward Jones Facebook page on the 24th, which I believe was Friday,
Mm.
and it talked about retirement, and it just got me to thinking, when my dad was 45 or even 40, and for my generation, and it would work for yours as well, our parents' retirement meant a completely different thing than it does to us now, because, it used to be, I guess it was a hard 65 and you're done. You didn't even think about doing anything more. And on the post says 59% of people want to work in some way during their retirement, which I believe it, because I'm 61 and my back tells me I'm 61, but nothing else tells me that I'm 61, which is both good and bad. Okay, let's get that out there too. But people still want to be active and do stuff. And you even mentioned that before we came on the show, that why should you stop doing what you're doing? Because you enjoy it so much.
Right. Right. Well, I think, you think about some of the jobs, early on. I kind of go back to, I guess, my dad and his side of the family, and so they were coal miners. So the
Ooh.
laborious side of the jobs that they were doing. It puts a toll on the body, and I think wanting to work afterwards. I mean, granted, I mean, they still work in the gardens and out in their different yards and around the houses and stuff like that. But I think that's changed a little bit too. I mean, as far as the different things that we do after we retired. Early on there was probably more farming and different things like that going on, and now we want to continue. People are living longer at this point too, so they feel young enough and they feel good enough to actually do some things. And again, the socialization portion of life
Yep.
usually happens at work. So that's a lot. I think a lot that goes into it now is just keeping the social aspects going. With rise of Alzheimer's, dementia, things like that. Making sure that you stay sharp, and again, getting up there and moving and all that type of stuff. I think that's part of it. And again, people enjoy being out and doing things, and there's opportunities out there for you to do things once you retire. And again, you don't have to completely shut it down. Some people would love to start traveling and doing all that type of stuff, but others, they want to be connected.
Yeah, and it's interesting looking back what we've learned through COVID when we were all sent home. No matter where we worked, we are pretty much all sent home. And at least you had some kids at the house, for good or bad, for noise and entertainment and everything like that. Well, it was just me and Becky, and that which was fine. I mean, I loved the time, but that led me to think for a while about the people that were single, whether they were, 25 or 65, and nobody else at home, going back to your socialization
Sure.
analogy. So I get that. I mean, I retired to do what I want to do, and what I don't want to do is stay home by myself all day long. So that's what I loved about these stats because it said 22% are looking to work part time. And again, that may be, hey, you know what? I'm still want to get out and meet people. Some could mean I want to add it to my retirement.
Sure.
And then 18% said they're wishing to work full time during their retirement. So that's changed completely in a generation and a half. I know for what types of questions you ask people from meeting them.
Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of, hey, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
What does retirement look like for you, or something like that? Because again, it looks different for every household. You may have a couple of folks that are very similar, but for the most part, people have different ideas about what that time is going to look like. And again, it changes because again, they want to spend time with grandkids, and they may want to travel, or hey, they may want to continue to work there, or they want to pick up a new hobby, or something like that. So kind of understanding all that. I mean, that's part of the process is asking those questions, and kind of understanding what's important to you as a client or as a prospect at that point. That's a huge part of this because again, it's going to be different for everybody.
So I think way back in the day with my parents and my grandparents, retirement probably meant a hard number of money in the bank. And that was it. Like, man, I just want to quit. I've been here 31 years and I hope I have X amount in the bank. And that's my retirement plan instead of we want to travel, we want to do stuff.
Sure, sure. Well, I mean, yeah, I go back to my grandparents and stuff like that. My granddad on my mom's side owned a service station for about 50 years. So he was, former military, all things like that, done a bunch of odd jobs and things like that, but he was a farmer. It was one of those things where you had, horses, cows, pigs, chickens, and two or three gardens. And, we spent our summers basically, we were breaking beans and shucking corn and all this different stuff. So I found myself at the grocery store yesterday, actually shucking corn. And I'm just like, man, it's like, I wonder how many times I've actually done this.
And you didn't realize you'd started doing that, did you? Till you're halfway
No,
through it.
no, not at all.
Now, if your granddad was a mechanic, that was a place where all the old guys came to chat every day, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. There was a group of folks that you would show up, and I mean, it was the old school way of doing stuff, the whole handshake,
Yep.
and he did things right. And I was always out there. We were always crawling around, probably not the safest thing, but all those hydraulic presses and all that kind of stuff. But my brothers and I were out there hanging out and kind of watching things. It was a family business at that point. My mom worked there for several years, and my uncles ran it until they closed it a handful of years ago. So
Nice. Yeah. Love those stories.
yeah,
Um, one of the other things you talk about, is you wanna protect people, and I find that now that I know your backstory, I found it even cooler because you were a former offensive lineman at the University of Virginia,
sure.
and how tall were you and are you?
So 6'8" and shrinking, I think in my older age here, but and all the compacted movements that run into 250, 300 pound defensive lineman probably shrunk my spine a little bit. But yeah, no, definitely on the 6'8" end, and of course my son keeps telling me he's going to be taller than me. He wants to be taller than me, so that's like eventually he will be. So,
But I love the analogy because you protected a quarterback for 4 years in college. By the way, I didn't realize it was Matt Schaub till I put some dots together.
yeah,
One
that's
of
a
them, yeah, an NFLer, right? So you wanna protect people with their money. So I just found it interesting once I got to know your backstory. It's like, okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so I told somebody the other day is they spent a lot of time, protecting folks and trying to make them look good, making holes and opening doorways and things like that for running backs and all that stuff. I mean, it really kind of does. It fits in, to kind of what we do. We want to open up those roadways and open up lines of communication to get to the goal, to get a touchdown, to score points and reach those goals. So no, it definitely makes sense.
I like it. And you wore number 72 at Virginia?
Yeah, I wore 72 all the way through. So from high school all the way through
What's the
college.
significance of that number?
It was one of those things that I was 75. I didn't start playing football until I was in eighth grade, and my principal actually had to call my house
Yeah.
to my mom and ask me, "It's like, can your son play football?" And she was just like, "You want to play?" I'm just like, "Yeah." I was like, because they always told us that was like, "Guys, you'll get hurt, you'll get hurt, you'll
Yeah.
get hurt," and they didn't know. I mean, we were, my older brother and younger brother were all, two times the size of most people, but yeah, he called, and luckily he did. I mean, it worked out, and I wore 75 there, and then 75 when I got to high school was taken. So 72 actually worked out, and it has a little bit of significance now because that's the exit that we get off to actually go home when we travel from North Carolina to Bluefield, Virginia. It's exit number 72. So that's
Nice.
like I've kind of attached that to that number.
I like that. Lord, how big were you in 8th grade?
Oh goodness, I could tell. I mean, it was probably a good, 6'1", 6'2". But yeah, we had a good time in there. We could touch the rim. We
Yeah.
thought that was the
Oh,
greatest
yeah.
thing in the
Yeah.
world is getting there to the point, dunking like little small basketballs and
So
things like that. So
when did your growth spurt happen?
I mean, it was very gradual, through high school. I think I got 6'4", 6'5", and then up to 6'7". And then, once I finally got out of high school into college, I think I hit that final growth spurt of another inch and got there. So,
So in ninth grade, were you're probably shaving and driving as a 15-year-old, right?
so no, I was skin and bones at that point. I played basketball too, so I had the old basketball player's body most times, and even through high school, I'd play football and I'd get up to probably 250 was probably my heaviest that I ever played, but during basketball I'd be down to 225 pounds. And went away to college. And I think when they first saw me, they're just like, "Who is this guy?"
Yeah.
Because I went there, I was 6'8" and 238 pounds when I went to college.
Jeez.
So it's very small lineman there at that point.
Do I have it right that you were an all ACC selection?
I think like maybe honorable mention. I think
Okay.
that last year or two, but yeah, had gotten that and got a couple of different little awards internally from UVA at that point too.
When now you had very little choice about what position you were going to play or what position group you were gonna be part of. Did you ever wanna be on the defensive side of the ball?
So yeah. So when I first got there and they did take a look at me, they're just like, "There's no way you're playing offensive line." So they did start me out at defensive end and tight end. So when I first got there as a freshman, because I played that in high school, I played defensive end in high school and offensive tackle. Yeah, it was definitely they moved me over. They had a small group, so they put me as a tight end. And really thought I had some opportunities to play because we had some injuries and stuff like that when I was a freshman. But we had really good tight ends. Casey Crawford went to the Panthers, and I think Billy Baber went out to Kansas City, and of course, eventually Heath Miller
Oh
came
yeah,
along,
yeah.
that played for Pittsburgh and is on the Hall of Fame ballot right now.
Yep.
So I mean, yeah, I think they had it covered.
Did you have good hands?
Yeah, yeah, I can actually catch. That's one thing I always prided myself on is being able to catch the ball. I'm trying to teach my son that right now. He started playing last year, and now he's going to be on the defensive side of the ball. He wants to be that way. And I told him, I was like, well, I can teach you all that. I was like, I've seen I don't know how many people try to get around me, so I was like, I can teach you how to do it. So.
Right side or left side?
So I bounced back and forth, but I ended up on the right side
Okay.
my last couple of years there. Yeah, so yeah, just the right side. DeBrickshaw Ferguson was on the left side, longtime New York Jet. So
Wow.
he did well too.
Okay. So you're behind a couple of pretty good NFLers, weren't you, with Heath
Oh
Miller
yeah,
and Yeah. Um, who was any notable names you had to pass block against?
well, let's the North Carolinians in town here.
Yep.
Julius Peppers was there,
Yeah.
so that was kind of tough. And I mean, there's so many folks there. I mean, a lot of first rounders. Calvin Pace was out of Wake Forest. I can't remember the gentleman that was out of Penn State. We played against them, and I tell you, it's just like a tornado of teeth and toenails and everything coming at you sometimes. So you had to really kind of lock down and dig your heels in sometimes.
And during the football season, you're eating as much as you can, not what you want, but what you can get down, right?
Oh, absolutely. Talked to my wife about that. It starts on like Thursday. You started with a like pasta heavy meal like lasagna and spaghetti and different stuff like that. And Friday is the steak meal, and then that night you have a snack, and what we call it a snack, I think people would call a week's worth of dinners and things like that, because you would start, I mean, they would have sandwiches, hamburgers, pizza, and
Oh,
Gatorade and milk and cookies and
yeah.
all this kind of stuff, just to kind of get your calories, because we went out, I mean, you were going for a couple hours straight. I mean, it's one of those things I can never keep weight on during the year. Even sitting there lifting and taking all the protein and doing all stuff, I can just never keep it going.
Dang, man, you hit the lottery with that food, didn't you? I mean, you're 19, 20, 21 years old. You're like, is life going to get better than this?
Yeah, we didn't know we didn't know what we had when after we get off of a away game, and they'd have the bottom of the bus would be full of Domino's pizzas, and everybody got
Oh,
one, and
oh, that is so good. Any idea how many calories you would burn during a game?
I have no idea. It's one of those things. I'm sure now they probably, the different trackers and different stuff that's out there. I'm sure they've got, really good statistics on that type of stuff going on now. But I mean, it had to be, I mean, in the thousands
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
I'm just figuring 3 and 4,000, especially on a noon kick, which those are, let's face it, folks. Not only are those horrible for the players, those noon kicks in August, they stink for fans.
We played Colorado State. It was one of the classic games at the beginning of the season. They started having multiple ones of those, kind of like the bowl games. At the beginning, we played Colorado State in Charlottesville, and it was in the 90s, and humidity was probably 100%.
Oh,
And we were all, I mean, we were toast during that game, and the guys from Colorado State were going over and throwing up on the sidelines and all this stuff. And I just remember after that game, I mean, my body just locked up.
Mhm.
from cramps. I mean, I drank Gatorade. We were pounding Gatorade on the sidelines, but
Yep.
ended up having to get an IV. I mean, I couldn't move
Yep.
after that one because it just drained every ounce of, I guess, salt out of my body at that
Yeah,
point.
I don't know how you guys did that because in my mind, it's always been there's just not enough water to drink to keep up with that pace.
Well, I mean, you know, all over on the sidelines. That's why that person filling up those cups and bringing water around, water bottles
Yep.
and water buffaloes is what we used to call them back in the day. Sitting there squirting water all over you, trying to breathe while you're drinking
Yeah.
because you're sitting there huffing and
Yeah.
puffing as you go along. But yeah, I mean, that's you try to do that, and you see all the different things now, like it's almost like syrup, you know, the Gatorade syrups and stuff like
Uh-huh.
that, where they will tear a package open and it's just all straight electrolytes.
Okay.
So yeah, they're definitely, I guess they're figuring some of that stuff out.
Well, and that gets you to thinking, like with Bear Bryant with the Junction Boys, he'd take them to Junction, Texas, and give them like no water for a week. It's funny back then you get water as a reward, but that's what we knew back then, right? I can't imagine playing a football game with little to no water if you're not winning. The coach didn't give it
Oh,
to you.
no, I mean, and like on AstroTurf, you know,
Oh
right there, you
God.
see that's when you see those little waves coming off the field. You
Yep.
know, it's like, oh, we're in for a good one today.
Yeah.
So,
Oh man. If you had not gone to Virginia, where would you have gone?
uh, so I got recruited by Virginia Tech to play, and so they were recruiting me for basketball and football
Wow.
at that point. Richmond called me up until the day that I signed with UVA. Just like, you know, if it doesn't work out, you can always come here. But yeah, I don't know. It was one of those things. So the whole recruiting process, I mean, it's very very interesting. But the guy that came out to my house came in the wintertime, and we actually got let out of school early that day because it was bad. I mean, you know, it was snowing bad, and I was just like, is he still coming? And he ended up still coming. And my dad actually had to go down and get in his car and drive it up our driveway because he couldn't make it. That's how bad it was. And the guy
Wow.
still came. And I looked at that and I was just like, you know, it's like if he's willing to put in this effort here, it's like this is the kind of folks that I want to play for. And it was kind of we shut it down at that point. That was about it.
When did you start getting letters and phone calls?
Uh, Probably towards the end of my sophomore year, you started getting all these different letters
Yeah.
from different places, and I still actually have a shoebox, my shoebox full, which is pretty sizable, thank goodness. But it has all the letters in there. So you got questionnaires. They're asking you how tall you are, how much you weigh, how much can you bench, how much can you squat. Ask you a bunch of different questions. You know, it's like who is one of your sports idol or something like that. So they would try to get to know you a little bit better through those. You know, because they've got a whole team of folks that are going through all this stuff and trying to get letters out to thousands and thousands of kids that they want to try to get in. It wasn't as easy, you know, as it is now with Twitter and Instagram and all this different stuff out there at this point.
How good was your high school team, and were there any other D1 players on that team?
Uh, we were actually really good. So I mean, we were a really relatively small school back in southwestern Virginia. I think our graduating class, I think it was the largest, and it was 200 people. And it's one of those things. And we won our state championship in 1995. And the game before the state championship, we won 7-6. So
Oh,
going through that, and we had three running backs that were over 1,000 yards apiece. You know, noticeably, we didn't throw the ball. I think we threw it a couple of times the entire year, but we ended up winning the state championship just by basically running the ball. We had a huge offensive lineman and things like that. So we had a couple of folks that went to play D2. We had a couple other, that came, before and after that played D1. I think probably one of the most notable ones. I mean, won a couple of Super Bowls was Ahmad Bradshaw. Who played for the Giants, played for the Colts. He was a couple years after me, but yeah, a lot of good folks. And again, football was king. It was one of those things. We played our rival Bluefield, West Virginia. It was kind of like you see in the Friday Night Lights. The whole town shuts down,
yep.
and there's 10,000 people that show up for this football game.
Now, as a Tennessee grad, I can make this statement. There's a lot of rednecks at that Friday night game, weren't there?
Yeah, there was always some story at the end of the day of somebody getting punched and
Yeah,
knocked down the stairs
yeah.
and something dumb happening. So yeah, it was always interesting to hear all that stuff afterwards.
And I can say that because a couple of years ago, Tennessee played Virginia Tech at Bristol Motor Speedway, and I told people all along that there's gonna be a lot of rednecks at that game, and there were.
Yeah, it's
We were
some
proud of ours.
rough and rowdy.
Yeah.
So
And you got a couple of tryouts with some NFL teams, correct?
yeah, so yeah, I went and tried out in San Francisco. Uh, throughout the draft process, and the unfortunate part, I'd gotten some injuries there towards the end of my career. I had to have my back worked on and
Ooh.
my thumb reattached basically at that point. But through the draft process, after the draft ends, free agency starts, and usually that's when a lot of wheeling and dealing is started. And I thought I was going to be going to Atlanta for a little while because they had called and got my agent's number and all those different things. And got a couple of calls, during that time from it was Pittsburgh and then the Miami Dolphins. And I got a couple of letters, it seemed like it was going back to college, high school again. Got letters from the Packers and the Raiders at that point, which I thought was interesting. I was like all over it. And then the 49ers called and asked me if I wanted to come out and do a tryout. And again, going out there, going and walking in the San Jose training facility, and you see on the wall the pictures of Joe Montana and Steve Young and all this stuff. And as anybody that's a sports fanatic or just have watched sports over the last 20 years, it was like, oh my gosh, it's like you see Super Bowl rings and all this sort of stuff. And then of course you see Bill Walsh walking around on the sidelines. So I was just like, wow, this is great.
Mm. You obviously wanted to keep playing, but in your mind, what kind of chances did you have of latching on somewhere?
It was tough. I mean, again, I was still, I'd met multiple people, even the one guy from the Texans said he was just like, you need to be 330 pounds. And when I was in college, I mean, I could barely get over 275. I could eat and work out. We worked out like crazy. And met with trainers and stuff like that. They actually put me on an 8,000 calorie a day diet. So which basically meant you just eat all day and try to get 8,000. Which at that point I couldn't eat that much. It was just
Yeah,
unbelievable. I mean, I guess it was like the Michael Phelps diet,
yeah.
trying to stuff it all in at that point.
Oh, man. When did you know that this wasn't going to happen?
So when the 49ers actually called me, I guess it was a few weeks after I ended up coming back because they had to send me back because they had some different stuff that they were working on to get people off the roster that were injured and things like that. So they called me and they were just like, "Hey, we want to bring you back out, sign a contract. Can you be on a plane at whatever it was 3 or 4 o'clock?" And that day I lived in Williamsburg at that point, and I drove back to Charlottesville. And I was going back to, I guess, kind of get my phone situated or whatever, and see a couple guys that were still playing. They called me while I was there, and they said, "Can you be on a plane at 3 or 4 o'clock?" And I was just like, I was like, "I'm 2 hours away." I was like, I can't make it there. Is there anything later or first thing in the morning?" They're just like, "All right, hold tight." And they end up calling back. Well, hey, you need to be on a plane first thing in the morning at 7:15. So I went over and talked to my offensive line coach and told him, I was like, "Hey, I need to be on a plane and going to San Francisco." And by the time I walked back down, they called me again and said, "Oh no, we found somebody else." I was
Oh,
just like,
man.
"What just happened?" So at that point, I was just like, "Yeah, it's like this is probably not going to work out." I was like, "I don't know if I can handle too many more of those."
And what time of year was this? What actual month and day, do you remember?
It was probably in August
Okay.
timeframe because I think folks were still around for like the summer camp getting ready to start in Charlottesville. So that's where they were. I definitely didn't commit that one to memory. I remember that phone call vividly though. So
And I guess what I wanna know next is, so the season has been over since December. The draft has already happened in I forget when they do that. And so we're looking at, 9 months since you last play or 7 months since you last played a game. Kind of conversations were you and your folks having with reality versus, oh, wouldn't this be cool?
Yeah, yeah, and at that point, it was I think it was engaged at that point, and my wife now at this point, she was, I mean, super supportive, and at that point, I think I was working at Reebok, kind of part time, and still working out a couple hours a day. We were still, hey, she was like, hey, as long as this takes, as long as you want to do this, she's like, I'm here. I was like, we're gonna do this. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I mean, the draft happens in, I guess, the April timeframe.
Yeah.
So again, throughout that time, I mean, you're still in contact with agents, and there's so much, turnover and people trying to build these teams at that point. So I mean, there's a lot of chatter going around all the time. So yeah, that's definitely. I mean, it's one of those things. Talking to. I mean, at that point, I'd moved away and wasn't moving back home. Uh, but yeah, I think we were just trying to figure it out because it's one of those things. It's a once in a lifetime deal.
And what is your wife's name?
Valerie,
Valerie. And how tall is Valerie?
uh, 5'7", 5'8",
Eh,
and
not too bad.
unfortunately, she's like, I never thought I was going to be the short one in the family, and my daughter is 5'10", 5'11". My son is now 6'2", so they enjoy it. They enjoy it way too much.
One of the questions I always enjoy asking people on the show that are married. So how did you and Valerie meet? And do you both tell the story the same way?
It's funny, and she'll probably kill me for this one, but and we went to high school together. So we went middle school, high school. Our lockers. So her last name was Moore. My name's Mullins. So our lockers were side by side from sixth, seventh grade on, all the way through high school. So she used to punch me and kick me, all those love taps and all that kind of stuff. And of course, she always tells this too. She's like, I asked him out in 10th grade and he turned me down. And I always tell her she wasn't ready. She hates that. She hates that, but everybody always chuckles at it. But
Yeah.
she went to Virginia Tech and I went to UVA, and we had mutual friends at each that knew each other. And somehow she tagged along to a birthday party and I was there. And it just kind of went well from there. And we've been together. This year will be 19 years of marriage. So I think 20 plus years that
Yeah.
we've dated and been married together. So
Too funny. Now, for the record, she actually did ask you out.
oh yeah, yeah. I was
Right.
just dumb. That's all. There's nothing else I could
Yeah.
say. I was just dumb. I was worried about football, basketball, baseball, whatever we had going on at that point. So
I like the fact that you're falling on your sword, man. You got points for that. So,
yeah,
because
I give that to her every time.
she
But I
was,
told her, I was just like, it's like if something would have happened, we would have went out. Maybe it wouldn't have worked out, and
yeah.
we wouldn't be where we are. So
Hey, you never know, right? I mean, you absolutely never. You could have messed up that first date. She never talked to you again.
right,
And
that's a
you
good
you would have
possibility.
you would have known you were in the doghouse when she asked to get her locker moved, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
the other funny thing, I guess we're in the parking lot after one of the Tuesday meetings. I don't think it was last week or the week before. You have, is it two brothers or three?
Two
Two.
brothers. Yeah,
All right.
so
And your
middle
brothers and
child.
you and your brothers and your dad are roughly all the same height, give or take a couple inches, right?
Well, my dad, unfortunately, he got cut off before 6 feet. So
Oh, I missed. Okay. I forgot about that. All
yeah,
right.
my older brother is probably 6'5". My young brother is like 6'3", 6'4", and then I got for some reason I must have been stealing their milk or something,
Yeah.
and I got the 6'8". So
And your mom's tall.
yeah, so yeah, she's 5'10", 5'11".
All right.
So yeah, they're roughly the same height. So
And the question I asked you was, I'll ask you here again. When your family of five walked into a restaurant or a room, conversations must have stopped.
yeah, and it's very similar to how we walk in. Like we walked into a restaurant yesterday with just my family and just everybody. They do a double take.
Yeah.
People basically walking through, and I'm ducking to come through the door sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's funny. And my wife will tell you that story too of the steak dinner, the first steak dinner that she ever came to my house, and at her house they usually got one steak on a plate, and my dad came in and had been grilling and came in with a heaping pile of steak on a platter, and she thought she was going to lose a hand once it got set down, and she didn't know what to think. So
I just the look on some people's faces when just you and your brothers would walk in rooms like, holy cow. And I have to believe that everywhere you went, probably from 10th grade on, they're like, instead of saying hi, the first question was, so what sport do you play?
Yeah, yeah. Do you play football and do you play basketball? And I could always say, yeah, yeah. Of course, anything I could get my hands on, I could play at that point. But we talked about earlier too was the whole amusement parks. It's fun to watch my kids ride anymore because I can't. Most of the rides I can't fit on and can't do
You
do
were
any of that stuff
you were
anyway.
telling a story where you had to get off the ride.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I think this was in high school. My brothers and I got on one. I think we were in Dollywood at that point, and they tried to start, pushing down the lap bar, and it kept hitting me in the front of the knees. And I'm just like, hey, I was like, you got to stop. I was like, it's not working. So it's kind of the walk of shame
Yeah.
to get off of those rides at that point. So,
Have you ever been carded?
carded? No, no, I don't think so. Trying to think of that one. I don't know that I have.
That was Amnon just asked me about that. I didn't even think about that, but that's hilarious, man.
No, no, no. At this point, no. I don't think I've been carded for anything like that.
I can
So
see the freshman walking up to you going, sir, could you buy some beer, please?
yeah, no. This and it doesn't help now. The white beard is
Yeah.
definitely pushed that out there. So that works.
Still tough to eat 8,000 calories, but a little harder to keep the weight off without burning 5,000 a day, isn't it?
Right, right. Yeah. So yeah, and the fun part is, I found a good little group that I work out with, and Sue Ann and Damon, just friends. All of our spouses are friends, and we're all friends. We hang out, and we've been working out for probably, I want to say, at least 4 years, maybe 5 years in the morning. And I think we probably do more laughing than we do
Yeah.
anything else. But we have a good time and get in there and do some different stuff. But yeah, I always enjoy the competition still. So.
Oh, yeah. That never goes away, does it?
No, not at all. Not at all. It's always good. You have the Oktoberfest down here in Clayton. They always do the keg toss and the
Yeah.
sack, feed sack toss, like 50-pound bags of that stuff. So I'm like, yeah, I'm in. It's like,
Yeah.
let's do
Yeah.
this.
You and get your brothers, man. That's a ringer team right there, right?
Yeah, I've been trying to get them down here for that. Hopefully my younger brother will make it. He keeps talking it. He keeps talking about it. So.
I would imagine the stories your mother would tell about the stuff you guys broke around the house.
Yeah, yeah. So we broke multiple doors
Yeah.
because we were always wrestling and fighting, and we would get into it a little bit more. And one would go behind the door and sit down, and then the other one would try to come through it. So, and I did get pushed. I did get pushed into a window once, and my backside was hanging out. And luckily or unluckily, my dad was working like right under it, and I was just like, "We're dead."
Yeah. Yeah. But he had to know at some point in time this could be a long haul for his checkbook with all the
Oh
things you
yeah,
guys are gonna break around the house, right? S
absolutely.
so one of the connections you have to this show, and Amnon, the producer here, is very good friends with Jim Bowdish. He used to be in
Okay.
his BNI chapter. And I want you to tell the story. So let me sum this up. So you're what, 6'7" now?
Yeah, 6'7", 6'8", in
Right?
there.
And
So
Jim Bowdish, also a Edward Jones financial advisor, friend of the show, and Jim and I grew up here in Raleigh. And Jim is 5'8", maybe? I
I don't
don't
know.
I
I'm
think that's
not
being
sure.
generous. I think that's a Charles Barkley measurement because Barkley ain't 6'4" or 6'7", he's 6'4". So Jim is 5'8", you're not. So tell the story of and Jim is your mentor, which is good. But
Yeah,
tell us the
yeah.
story again, the first time you 2 met and what he tried to hand you.
Yeah, so we have some Saturdays that we work, and there's some opportunities to win some prizes, things like that. Kind of hopefully going above and beyond, and being present on those days. And one was a golf shirt, and he was driving around, and he had just become my mentor, so he wanted to come out and meet me and talk. And he gets out of the truck, and I walk out the door, and he was just like, "Well, this isn't going to fit." So he's like, next time I think I'll have to remember. I'll have to remember not to get not to get the shirt, and I have to get like a cup or something.
I hope there is there a picture of you 2 anywhere?
I'll have to search. I know
Uh,
we did some it was a team building event
uh,
a while back, and that he and I were hanging out together. So yeah,
nice. Well, if you have
probably
that,
something
send me that. I'd love to see that because I need to catch up with him anyways. I'll use that as my intro on the emails. Like, hey, let's chat. Just show him that picture. So, Mike, it's been a blast having you on the show. What you do is important. I know it scares us. Talk about I don't have enough yet and things like that. But folks, we've been putting Mike's phone number up on the screen here. You do a 30-minute free consult, right?
Yes, I mean we do complimentary reviews, and
Yeah.
again just talking again, the cost is your time at that point, and again, hopefully it's going to be time well spent, and talking about some of those things that maybe you're not thinking about. And again, trying to dig a little bit deeper, and pull a little bit harder, maybe on some of the things that you've been thinking about, and thinking that it can't be done, that really can be done. So yeah, that's definitely a good opportunity to just to call and talk.
Yeah, and just get started, folks. Just start
Sure.
putting something away. I mean, you showed one time with the difference between was it a 29 and a 39-year-old starting to save, or 25 and 35, something like that, in ridiculous numbers that 10 years can make.
Sure. That time is our best friend, and our time can be our worst enemy. So
Right.
that's
That's right.
here we go. As I always tell anybody younger that I meet, I'm just like, wow, it's like I wish I had that in my wheelhouse
Yeah.
whenever I was your age, because again, at that point, you're setting yourself up for a really good future if you can start early enough. So.
That's a tough game to play catch up in.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's you're chasing the tiger's tail at some point
Yeah,
with that one. So.
math ain't fun at that point. So, anyways, good luck the rest of the year. I will see you tomorrow morning at the meeting. And again, folks, if you're in the Smithfield area, Clayton, Garner, anywhere around there, you're looking to meet a good group of small business owners and professionals, come join us Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. And Mike, good luck with everything. And thanks for being on the show again and sharing some nuggets with us.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it. It's been a great opportunity to be part of BNI, and meeting a bunch of great folks.
Cool.
So.
And we will see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.